Welcome back to our 2018 Origins Summer Preview coverage. I am here with John from Genius Games.
Hello.
And what have you brought for us today?
So I have brought a game called Subatomic, an atom building game. Now this game obviously is about building atoms, right? So each player, it's a deck building game, each player is going to start with a very small hand of up quarks, down quarks, and photon cards, gamma rays. What you're doing, I know that like at first glance, like up quarks, down quarks, and photons, you know, what are we doing with that?
I'm lost already.
That's all right. We'll walk you through, and that's the whole point, right? You're going to play the game, you might learn a little science along the way, but you're going to have fun, and that's sort of our mission as a company.
Nice.
So if you look at your player mat here, you can see what's required to actually build a proton, neutron, and electron.
Okay.
If I was going to build a proton, I would need 2 up quarks and a down quark, and then I would get to either add 1 proton to my player mat, or take a proton card here and add it to my deck. So let's say I took this one, cost 0 energy. You can see the cost at the bottom, 2 reds, 1 blue, 2 reds, 1 blue, up quarks and down quarks. I get to add that to my discard pile. Then if I want a proton later on in the game after I shuffle these back in, I only use 1 card instead of 3 cards, right?
Nice. Okay.
That's standard deck building, right?
Building.
So really the tension here is, do I want to put the card in my deck, or do I want to build up my atom here on my player mat? And if it's on your player mat, that is how you claim these element cards here. It's the only way to actually get elements in the game. And elements are what score you points.
Okay.
So you can build up your deck all you want, and that's great, but if at some point you don't start building these elements and scoring points, then you're
just going through a deck, adding cards.
Right. Now when you build an element, so you have energy over here. When you build an element, any element is going to cost a number of energy shown above that card, right? So for an example, let's say this one's a pretty easy one. You need 2 protons, 2 neutrons, and 2 electrons. We're going to be going through our deck, adding some stuff to our deck as much as we can, adding some of the subatomic particles here to our player mat. Let's say we have the 2 electrons there, the 2 protons there, and the 2 neutrons there. Now, and we also would need some energy, right?
Okay.
And I'll explain how to get energy in just a second.
I was about to ask.
Yeah, how do you get energy? This thing you keep talking about. We'd pay our 3 energy. We'd pay all of our subatomic particles on our player mat. We would claim this card. That would go in front of us. We now know at the end of the game I'm going to score 4 points. The big red number down at the bottom, that's the mass of that element, the mass number of that element. And then I would get to place 2 cubes on these end-game areas here. Now, I cannot place it on helium. That's the only catch, right? And the top one is helium, and then lithium, beryllium, boron, and an elemental set. And I'll explain what that is in a second.
So I can put it on anything except what I just built.
That's exactly right. And that sort of forces you to diversify over the game. So let's say that I place the next one on, boron and beryllium are out here, so maybe I'll play one on beryllium and the other one on the elemental set. I can choose either one of these 2 tiles here as a bonus right now. Let's say I choose this one. That allows me at any point to gain 3 particles immediately, right? Okay. So I'll save that for later.
And does this then refresh, or is
it stays right there?
It's a.
And then
no, I mean this. Does this get replaced, or is that just a once per game thing?
Once per game, yep, once per game. Now what we're actually trying to do here is essentially like area majority. So let's say you built one and you go here and you go here as well, and then I build another one. Let's say that I actually was able to get that beryllium there. I now can't place on beryllium, but I'm going to come up here and place on helium because I own another helium, and maybe I'll come here. At the end of the game, the person with the most cubes in that area is going to score the top amount of points, 4 points, for every one of that type of card they have.
Okay.
And then beryllium here, I would score, well, here we're tied, right? 1 and 1. Now normally we'd have all our cubes out there, and that's what marks the end of the game. We would split the 3 and the 1. However here, let's say that I actually had 2 there, I would get 3 points for every beryllium that I have, and you'd get 1 point for every beryllium that you have.
So there's a bit of a collection going with a bit of area control.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Nice. Now, one of the unique things about this game, so if you have a hand and you don't feel like you can do anything with it, or you just want to stock up some energy, you can actually play any cards face down, not as a face value, and take that quantity of energy, right? So I could have...
So that's how we get the energy.
That's how we get the energy, yeah. So 2 photons here, that'll get me an electron. the 3 ups and 1 down, that'll get me the proton. Or I could have, say, played 1 electron and played all 3 of these down to get the energy. And I could also just play them face down in order to pay that energy cost immediately.
Okay.
You also see here some scientists. Now these scientists kind of change up the way that the game plays. You purchase them by the energy cost down here, so you can see that.
Right, so you pay for them with this. So we've got
that's
8,
right.
8, 6, 4.
That's exactly right. Now someone like Thompson here, JJ Thompson, this is the pre-production copy, and this is a little hard to see right here. In the final version, we actually made this a little bit more orangey, so it's a little easier to see. Yeah, it's a little hard to see here, a little darker. When he comes up in your hand, he allows you to take any one subatomic card from your discard pile and then shuffle your discard pile. So if I like really needed that proton, right, but I had just played it, whoop, I could play him, pick up my discard pile, grab that proton, stick it back into my hands, right? So a nice little engine building card that allows me to do something unique.
So these get added to your deck. Now I noticed there's multiples of these. Can you have multiples of them, or are you limited? Okay.
Yeah, you can have as many as you want. There's only 3 of any given type, and once the first one is taken, the next one is increased by 1 in its cost to purchase. So that one's 8, that one's 9, the last one is 10. By the time you get to 10, yeah, it's a little pricey. It's a little pricey.
Probably not quite as efficient at that point.
That's right.
And so what's the end game trigger? How do you know when this game is?
Yeah, the game ends when someone has built 5 elements total.
Okay.
And because you place exactly 2 cubes every time you build an element, you'll have 10 cubes out here. So as soon as someone plays all their cubes or finishes placing all their cubes, that marks the end of the game. Everyone else takes 1 turn. We got this big meaty wood first player marker, so you go back all the way around to the player of the left on the first player, and then that's the end of the game.
And then you just take the points that you have in front of you plus these?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And what's the player count on this?
The player count is 2 to 4.
2 to 4. And playtime?
Playtime is, I would say, roughly 45 minutes. You know, with a new game, it's going to be a little bit tougher and a little bit longer because you're going to have some new players out there trying to figure out what to do. But the nice thing about a deck building game is that it plays amazing at 2-player, just like it does at 4. There's not a whole lot of scaling that needs to happen. The main difference is when you add a player, you tack on another 10-15 minutes of playtime because you have that additional person
and given that it's kind of a learning science game, what's the age on this game?
Yeah, so we said, what did we say in this? We said 10 and up. You know, for a 10-year-old, you've got a lot of 10-year-olds that live in gaming families, and they could play something like this real easy. If you're not from a gaming family, that's probably a little complicated, you know, for a 10-year-old. But we've had a lot of kids, 10, 11, 12, who play a lot of games with their parents, will come and play this, and they have no problem with it.
Yeah, I like the little artwork on it. It's pretty cute.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
is this available now?
It is not yet available.
When will it be available?
This is our pre-production copy. So we just got this from the manufacturer about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
It should be in retail roughly late August to early September, hopefully.
Okay.
That's when we've told our Kickstarter backers that we would be delivering it. Yeah, so late August, hopefully we'll deliver to the Kickstarter backers. The Kickstarter was earlier this year. We raised a little over, I think, 280,000 with 4,000 or 5,000 backers, so it did really, really well. People really like the science behind the game, and that's another thing I can mention real quick. This is a document here that was actually crowdsourced by roughly 20 PhDs and doctors across the globe that played the game and looked at the science, and then they actually wrote out how each of the components in the game represents the actual particle physics and chemistry.
Oh, that's pretty cool, and it also covers the different scientists.
That's right.
Like that.
That's right.
That's interesting.
And our team did not write any of this internally. This is written. This is crowdsourced by those 20 PhDs and doctors across the world. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So I'm excited to see this come out.
Yeah. One other thing I forgot to mention here: Annihilation. So you can actually pay, and the cost is here 3. Or 2 if this marker's back here. You'll pay that amount and then you'll move it down, and what that allows you to do is cull cards from your hand, essentially completely remove them from the game. So as you're adding in these bigger deck building cards, which allow you to do a lot more stuff per turn, you can also get rid of a lot of these weaker cards.
Those cards you started with.
That's right. And that is Subatomic.
All right, I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And we will see you folks in just a little bit.